Hey there, welcome back to another video. As always, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Go ahead and like the video. It helps push the algorithm to show the video to more people and get more people involved in our lovely little jazz community. I was debating on what the topic of today was because I've been doing more so daily videos where I record on the day that the video is dropping. More so because I just don't want to give you guys repetitive content as far as how the players are doing or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of repetitive issues that the Utah Jazz are having, and we just have to talk about a lot of them. Now, shout out to my boy Finn. If you've been in the post-game or the during the game chats, you probably noticed him in there. He's also in a lot of the comment sections. Finish view. He has obviously a more pessimistic view about the outlook of the team right now. And I share some of those sentiments, but obviously I can tell that he loves Lowry and he wants Lowry to be the best player humanly possible. And I believe that the guards are holding him back. We are both in agreement on that. Now, he opened my eyes towards the turnovers. My biggest thing overall has been the lack of shot making, because as a point guard or as a shooting guard, for these guards that they have on the roster, they're already not the tier 1 guards of the Damian Lillards, the Kyrie Irvings, the Luka Doncic, those type of guys. They're not that guy on anybody's team. The issue that they have is you have to be able to score efficiently and allow Lowry to do most of the damage. But right now, neither of the guard positions, point guard or shooting guard wise, are getting the efficiency that they need to. And when I say efficiency, I no longer mean just from a shot making standpoint. My biggest issue with the shot making standpoint is Jordan Clarkson. At no point should he be shooting comparable shot numbers to Lowry if he's not hitting his shots. I understand that he has his clutch moments. For example, the one game that I referenced previously, you can't go 5 for 20 in a game where Lowry doesn't get 20 shots as well. And even if Lowry does get 20 shots, on a good night, he's probably going to hit 50, a little over 50% of those. So you're completely tanking the overall percentage between the two of you, negating his positive effect on the game. Add to that the fact that Jordan Clarkson's averaging 3.5 turnovers a night and playing 30 minutes, it doesn't leave for a lot of positive things to happen. Now, overall, the average is 17.4 turnovers for the team, which isn't good. But when you break it down piece by piece, it's not as egregiously horrible as it would sound. Now, Colin Sexton alone in his 19.5 minutes is more turnover prone than Jordan Clarkson, ironically so, averaging 2.1 turnovers a night. And then you have Taylor Horton-Tucker, who has been the starting point guard since the beginning of the year, and there has been no adjustment to that, playing an average of 25 minutes a night and averaging 2.3 turnovers. Now, Keontae George, Kelly Olynyk, and Lowry all average between 1.6 and 1.8 turnovers a game, which is understandable to a certain extent. Lowry obviously averages 1.9 assists, so he's not that much of a playmaker, but he kind of makes up when you look at that ratio. And understanding that that has not been something that's been significantly a part of his game, and while we would say he's improved a little bit, is not something to where you would see him in the likes of even the Kelly Olynyk. Now, Kelly Olynyk sports a 4 assists to 1.8 turnover ratio, which is effectively 2-to-1, which isn't terrible. And considering the position that he plays, that's actually pretty solid. And he does make up for the lack of playmaking between John Collins, Walker Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen. And that effectively makes sure that Kelly Olynyk stays on the team and even at times on the court alongside any tandem of those bigs, because he can play well with all of them because of his shooting touch. And it just helps the ball move when you have guards that don't hit shots and continuously turn the ball over. Now, Chris Dunn and Ochai Agbaji have both played significantly fewer minutes than I probably originally anticipated, and seeing as Jordan Clarkson has not found his stroke but in 2 games, it's about time that Ochai gets the opportunity to prove that he has taken that next step as a sophomore. Now, I do understand that he only provides, for the most part, some sneaky athleticism at the rim and some great 3-point shot making, but right now, you're not getting either of those from Jordan Clarkson. And Ochai is undoubtedly a better defender. I would like to see a lineup that consists of your typical 3 starters. You have Lowry, you have John Collins, and you have Walker Kessler. But I would like to see Ochai get a start and Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn, to me, plays better defense than most point guards with the exception of Taylor Horton-Tucker. In zone defense, he's better than Taylor Horton-Tucker because he communicates properly and he doesn't cheat his assignment. We've been getting killed as far as kickouts go, as far as just swinging the ball, because people are either overhelping or they're getting caught out of position. Now, part of that also can be attributed to the fact that Lowry is getting put in a situation where he's expected to roam around like Jaren Jackson Jr., and he's on somebody that can't shoot 3 so he can help off, but he hasn't really adjusted to that role yet. So while he adjusts, we need to go ahead and clean up the smaller issues between each individual player and make it into a massive problem, i.e. turnovers and shot making. You can't have John Collins being your second best scorer, giving you 14.5, 15 points a night, having Lowry give you a very efficient 24 a night, and then your third scorer is Jordan Clarkson giving you 13.5 across 30 minutes, but he's shooting like hot dog water from the field. That cannot happen. And just to give the overall aspect, I know I'm ragging on Jordan Clarkson really bad right now. And for anybody that is a Jordan Clarkson fan, I do apologize. I don't believe this is indicative of who he is going to be as an entire player, but right now it's just so bad and it's costing them really bad because it's the beginning of the season and it was okay against the teams that they were going to lose to or that were expected to lose, right? Against the Suns, against the Kings even. But he had a good second half in that one, even though it was kind of like a garbage time situation. When they played against the Denver Nuggets, you can accept bad games from him then. But when you play teams that are subpar, for example, the Magic, you can't afford to have so many costly and significant mistakes as the ones that he's having. And he's having them in such copious amounts and he's putting it on full display that it just really irritates you to your core if you're watching the games. Now, so that I don't misreference, I pulled up the metrics for him and he's shooting 34.5% from the field. Not the 30-point line, from the field, which is problematic. He also shoots 27.3% from 3 on 5.5 attempts a game. Overall, he's shooting basically 14 shots a night and only hitting 5 of them. That's not okay because you have Lowry hitting 8 of his 17. And while Lowry's percentage sports a 47% and a 43.5% from beyond the arc, shooting almost 10 attempts a game, it completely gets negated when Clarkson misses his shots. And credit to Walker Kessler because last game he did have a very superb rebounding night. I need to go ahead and throw that in there because lately it hasn't seemed like he's had much of an effect on the glass. Admittedly, he's been kind of getting pulled away from the glass because there's been a lot more man matchups that allow for a defense to stretch out the Utah Jazz roster, but he did have, I believe, 9 offensive rebounds last game. And so him getting relegated to cleanup duty, admittedly, some of them were his own misses because he didn't shoot terrifically. He's still putting in work down there. But at the end of the day, you can't live with so many missed shots. You can miss with some, right? But if I'm going to sit there and watch somebody miss 11 shots, miss 12 shots, miss 8 shots, I want it to be Keontae George. I'm not going to lie. If he's supposed to be the future piece, and I know his defense is horrible, right? At times. Sometimes he's getting a little bit better. Is he good? No. Is he decent? In spurts. It's kind of rough other times, right? And we've come to understand that that's just how it's going to be for now. But I don't think that having Jordan Clarkson, the volume shooter, start your game and effectively tank your offense on an off night, which has been most of his nights at this point, 8 games into the season, and just keep it that way. You can't live like that. If that's the case, just go ahead and let the fans know now that the Utah Jazz are tanking. Just go ahead. And go ahead and trade some of the guards away, get some more assets. We have a ridiculous amount of first round picks, right, over the next couple seasons, the likes of which no other team probably, to my knowledge, has ever had in NBA history. So there's room to work with, but go ahead and set the expectation for what it is. Because if you think that the Utah Jazz can make the playoffs as much as I did, then this is a very frustrating moment in time because you're losing to teams that you should not be losing to. The Magic game, there was some lapses, right? The second quarter was absolutely egregious and it allowed the Magic to get too many points off of turnovers. That was a really bad game, a really great game. If you wanted to see how bad the turnovers were, just put on the film from the second quarter. Specifically, back to back to back to back, missed shot, back to back to back, turnovers, right? Can't have those either. Now, as I said, Jordan Clarkson alone leads the team by a wide margin, also considering that he plays 30 minutes a night on average. With the starting 5 that they've been consistently running, they average 9.4 turnovers alone. Out of the 17.4, 9.4 of them are theirs, right? So that leaves 8 turnovers that are getting spread across the bench, which isn't ideal when you go roughly 8, 9, sometimes 10 guys deep. You know, usually Taylor Hendricks, Bryce Sensabaugh, they've only played 1 game. You've seen Omer Yurtseven, and he's actually looked pretty solid in the minutes that he's had. I'd like to see him get a little bit more because he hasn't had a lot of minutes. He's only played 5.2 on average across 6 games, right? But he hasn't been a bad player. He's been not a liability on defense, surprisingly to some people. And he showed good touch around the rim that, quite frankly, Walker Kessler seems to be struggling with at this point in the season. I think those issues will get righted, but as of right now, it's a little bit of a question mark. Walker Kessler, though, is finally learning to shoot the 3 ball, and I can appreciate that. If you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe because I'm covering the Jazz the rest of the season. But I just felt like instead of doing my typical 5 to 7 minute long videos, this was one that had to be a bit longer because we have to go ahead and just lay it on the table, and I'll do some videos later on breaking down each individual player. I wanted to do a video actually today about Lauri Markkanen and how good he's doing because he's doing a fabulous job, right? Now, he didn't have a lot of rebounds last game, but I know that's going to be an anomaly, right? That's a true, genuine anomaly for him, right? I think he had 3 or 4 rebounds, so that's not typical of him. But you can't have your best player shooting 17 shots a game, shooting 47% from the field, with over half of his shots, 9.8 out of that 17.3, right, being 3-pointers, and he's hitting them at a ridiculous 43.6% clip at 7 foot, giving you solid defense, learning a new role, and making it work, right? It's not great yet, it's not perfected, but it's working. Taking 4 free throws a game on 87.5%. The team just has to be better overall. And right now, it's just not doing what's supposed to be done, particularly from a guard standpoint. Now, I know I sit there and act like the bigs are doing some terrific job. They're doing a godsend job. And it's like, well, if 3 out of your 5 players are playing so well, how is your team always consistently losing? Turnovers. Your bigs can't grab every rebound because they're not always on the floor together, right? Walker Kessler finding a way to play alongside John Collins. They're getting a little bit cohesion. And so you're going to see a little bit of a regression from John Collins, the number of shots he's taking, but he's hitting them with such efficiency. I want to say he only took like 5 or 6 shots last night, and he still managed with 14 points, right? The rebounds were a little bit down. He had to get 6 or 7, not ideal, but overall, he's been a very solid player for them. Walker Kessler's going to get better. He's now upped his blocks to 2.1. He had, I believe, 4 blocks in the most recent game. So he's finding his way around the rim. He's getting more efficient. He's getting to the right spots when he needs to be in. But outside of him on defense, things get a little bit hairy, especially when your guards are constantly getting beat. And then they're also turning the ball over, because that puts you in a lot of situations where you're really just running a fast break consistently. And anybody that's ever played rec basketball, any sort of team basketball, middle school, high school, it doesn't matter. You know suicides get to you after a certain point. And if you're sitting there on the court playing 30 minutes and it just turns into a track meet every other offensive possession you have, that's not a good look. If you miss a shot long and then you have to be the one to get back, and the person that missed the shot doesn't get all the way back and help in that transition defensive setting, that makes things really rough for you. That being said, I don't want to rag on Collin Sexton too terribly at this very moment, because the beginning of his season was rough. But as of late, he's been shooting a lot better in the minutes that he's played, sporting a 48.6% shooting from the field percentage, and then a 35% from the 3-point line on only 3 attempts, right? We want him to shoot off the catch. We don't want him to shoot off the dribble. Because if he dribbles, it messes with his rhythm, his efficiency goes down, and 9 times out of 10, there's probably a pass that he should make, but probably isn't going to make. So we can live without those, right? Overall, he only takes 8 or 9 shots a game, and he plays in roughly 20 minutes. So he's found a niche area, and Will Hardy has put him in a position to score buckets and be okay enough to play. Jordan Clarkson looks egregiously worse than Collin Sexton right now. And I know Collin Sexton is trying to make an adjustment. He's trying to get better for the team, and his role isn't exactly ideal. The type of player that he isn't going to be conducive to success, which is also what heightens the need for a player like Kelly Olynyk to be on the court at times. Keontae George can't learn from playing on the court with Jordan Clarkson or THT because they're turnover prone. THT's delayed on passes. Defensively, man on man, he can learn from THT, but he can't learn on defense from Jordan Clarkson because he's late in rotation and he doesn't really strap up that consistently as we would love for him to be able to. Some of it's a bit of size. The other part is just the fact that he's jacking so many shots on offense. He's tired when he gets back on defense. The question then becomes, well, how do you solve the problem? And for me, I know I've laid out a lot of issues. I probably haven't even covered all the issues that I potentially could have, and the ones that I haven't, go ahead and drop them down in the comment section. Let me hear you guys' opinions, because maybe you guys agree with me. Maybe you feel like there's some specific player, some situation that they get caught in, whether it be a pick and roll situation, whether it be when they're in zone defense, where a player just egregiously looks bad. And maybe I just haven't taken enough of a deep dive into the advanced metrics to zero in on that player, because there's an issue and it's not getting resolved. And the last point that I want to hone in on, the last person really, is the fault of Will Hardy. He's a young coach, overachieved with them last year. He did some great things. And I think he can do great things this year, right? Because who in their right mind is going to have their 7-footer running the small forward spot, shooting 10 threes a night? Maybe Steve Kerr. But Lowry's so good at it, Will Hardy said, let's do it. You're our best player. Let's do it. Forget everything else. We'll work around what we have to make this work. He has Walker Kessler on the court. In the beginning, he was struggling. He's kind of found his footing. He's still finding his footing. Give him about 10 more games in my mind. When he gets around that 20-game mark, that's the Walker Kessler that I'm going to be expecting for the remainder of the season. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, that's Walker Kessler. John Collins is working off of the other bigs. He's doing his job to the best, and I want to congratulate him on that, because we got him for $25 million, right? For Rudy Gay and a second-round pick, which was basically a bag of corn chips and a mothball at this point. So it was a steal. But the next step is going to be filling out those guard roles. And right now, Will Hardy has not made enough of an adjustment to make it worthwhile. Collin Sexton, he made that adjustment, and Collins' percentages have gone up, right? He's not as egregious of a defensive miscalculation to have on the court and just a problem as he was before, but it's still going to be a problematic situation because he's just little. The tenacity, the energy, the hype is always there with him. He's a dog, but he's little. And you can't have somebody 6'1" getting a stop on somebody that's 6'5" every single time. You can't count on that because it's just quite frankly not going to happen no matter how hard he tries. And when you have Jordan Clarkson and Taylor Horton-Tucker eating up 25 and 31 minutes a game and playing poorly, it's not looking good. I didn't touch on THT too much this video because I've obviously spoken about him in past times, but just to sprinkle a little bit of an update on that, he's shooting 38.8% from the field on 10 and a half shots a night. His 3-point percentage has decreased. He's now averaging 1.3 out of the 3.9 a night, hitting at a 32.3% clip. So not nearly as bad as Jordan Clarkson, right? You have Thing 1 and Thing 2 shooting 11 and 14 shots a game, and their combined percentage is significantly below league average, which is unacceptable. I think that being almost 10 games into the season, if you want to go ahead and give Jordan Clarkson and THT the opportunity one more time to just get comfortable and see if something happens, at this point, go ahead. But the in-season tournament's about to happen, and I need something spicy. I don't want to see the same team that we've been seeing the past couple games. The Utah Jazz aren't losing against teams that should beat them, where you look at a game slate and you see Utah Jazz versus Magic. You don't expect to lose that game, but they do in convincing fashion. That's not the expectation for this team. And so something needs to be shaken up. And I'm not going to go ahead and just throw out there that Keyonte George should go ahead and start. But at this point, even if he's missing shots, he's borderline the same at worst as Jordan Clarkson, right? Do you think he's really going to shoot beneath 38% from the field? I don't. Just a thought. I want to see Chris Dunn and Ochai Agbaji get the start, and I want to see Keyonte George come right behind them. I'm not going to say go ahead and give THT and Jordan Clarkson a game off, but have them play 18 to 22-ish minutes and let some other guys get the opportunity to fail. Let everybody fail, and then we can clear house. We can wipe the slate with everybody. Because if we don't allow everybody the opportunity to be successful and we just lump the entire team as being the problem, then that's not fair to the guys that are actually putting in work and are capable of putting in work, and it misrepresents them. I think for the Utah Jazz, this is a case of misrepresentation. THT and Jordan Clarkson are not working right now. Halfway through the season, they just continue to play this lineup, and all of a sudden they just catch fire and things keep going, and they have a really strong second half, and I'm wrong. And I would love for that to be the truth. I would love for Will Hardy and that Utah Jazz staff to be correct and me to be an idiot, honestly. But here I am 8 games into it, and it's basically a 10th of the season, right? And things aren't looking good. 2-5, 2-6, that's not good. Losing games you should win isn't good. You Utah Jazz fan, I know you're frustrated no matter where you are in the country, out of the country, wherever you are. You're frustrated because you turn on your TV, you watch a game, you see Lowry do a great job. You see John Collins meshing well with Lowry, and then you see Walker Kessler getting blocks, and then you see the guard plays just absolutely terrible. And that's just something that needs to be adjusted sooner than later because it can't stay this way and the Utah Jazz win games. If you look 8 more games into the season and you play the exact same way here and you go another 2-6, then you're looking at 4-12. And that's a hole that you cannot afford to be in because you're going to play better teams. And as stacked as the West is, a lot of your games are going to be teams that are supposed to be better than you on everybody else's mindset. So if you can't play good against the teams that you should beat, what makes you think that you can beat the teams that think they should beat you? But that's enough ragging on the Utah Jazz today. I'll have some more positive content coming. And with the next game coming up, hopefully we see a little bit of a change of heart and as far as the energy that they give. And I hope that in the near future, we do see what the true Utah Jazz are capable of. But with that being said, go ahead and like the video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Subscribe and turn on post notifications. It's been your boy Wraith Hoops. And as always, good morning, good evening, good night. No matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one.